UFC 305 in Perth, Australia just happened. It is Sunday morning here in the goddamn United States of A. Not in fucking liberal Australia. We are in United States, all right? It is Sunday morning. It's 11 o'clock. We just woke up after watching the fights until 2 a.m. last night and then the after-fight press conference. I'm going to go through some of the highlights during the card, some of the things that happened that I thought were pretty important, as well as some of the performances and some of the letdowns that we saw throughout the night. Starting at the beginning of the card, we had Stuart Nickel and let me make my fucking screen smaller. Jesus Aguilar. All right. Jesus looked like his game plan was to rush forward and get the takedown, as he did. He striked for, about 5 fucking minutes? Basically. He warmed up in the back, ran out there, ran towards the guy, jumped on his back, got the fucking submission. First round finish for Jesus Aguilar. Love to see it in the flyweight division, especially some guys that are actually elite and don't just go to decisions, actually chase the finish. Love to see it. On to the next. Sam Kanan and Ricky Glenn. This fight was kind of a letdown. I know Ricky Glenn has competed at featherweight and lightweight before. I was expecting him to come out a lot more aggressive and be ready for the shots, especially competing at a higher weight class. Like I was saying, you would expect him to rush in there and get the takedown like he did, but I really thought he was going to let the hands go a little bit more. Obviously, Sam Kanan can strike. It looks like he doesn't know how to finish a fight, in my opinion. He was struggling to get the finish, and Ricky Glenn was there for the flying knee, for the uppercut. I just felt like there was a lot of openings where he would just shell up, and Sam Kanan had the chance to finish him. He dropped him multiple times, but didn't want to chase the finish, I guess, and played it a bit more safe than, what's actually going to get you up towards the top. Let's just be honest. Not being a finisher doesn't get you towards the top. Anyways, on to the next. Good striking by Sam Kanan. Looked good on the feet. Ricky Glenn had a terrible game plan. I don't know what he was planning, but I don't know. Some of these guys, it makes me wonder. On to the next. I digress. Alex Reyes and Tom Nolan. I was really expecting Tom Nolan to gas out after the first round. He looked like he was getting tired, but he pushed through and he stuck it through the end. I'm pretty sure it was 27. I'm pretty sure he had a good decision on this one. I'm pretty sure it was 30-27, and on one card it said 30-26, which was pretty dominant. I got to give it to him. He came out strong. I thought Alex Reyes was going to buckle. Alex Reyes is a lot tougher than his brother. He looked decent on the feet. He definitely looked like he had some ring rust, which is understandable for being out for so long. But yeah, I was impressed by Tom Nolan. I thought he was going to get the finish. He didn't get the finish. Then I thought he was going to gas out. Didn't gas out. He looked better on the feet than we thought. I don't think he's ready for the rankings yet, unfortunately. I think he's right outside of them. But to be able to run out there and chase the finish from the very beginning is respectable, and he definitely deserves a good opponent. Not necessarily a ranked opponent, but somebody pretty known, I think is fair. Alex Reyes, you got some work to do, bro. Get back in the octagon. You didn't look bad. The fight looks closer than I thought. It just looked like Tom Nolan was leading the dance with the striking, pretty much everything on the feet. Got to give him credit where credit's due. It looked like Alex Reyes was playing around and trying to survive rather than implementing his game plan. And in my opinion, I think that dictates the winner. I digress. Jack Jenkins and Herbert Burns. I'm pretty sure I said this in my breakdown video. Herbert Burns is a fucking quitter. He's quit in his last couple fights. He quit in this one. He wanted to quit earlier. By the end of the first round, he was laying on his back. And I believe Mark Goddard was the one that had to tell him to get up multiple times. Might have been a different ref. I'm pretty sure it was Mark Goddard, though. That was embarrassing. I believe the UFC should cut him. I don't think they owe him anything. This was rough. It's awesome he took the fight on short notice. I'll give him the credit for that. Maybe he gets one more fight, but he's quit in his last 3. And I don't think that's fair to a lot of the other guys who are dying to get in his position and wouldn't quit on themselves the way he did, no matter how bad those leg kicks hurt. I think Jack Jenkins could have got the finish in the first round if he pushed a little bit more. I understand he was out for a while. I believe almost a year since he broke his arm. Or like 8 months or something like that. It was a while ago. Anyways, my point is, I think Jack Jenkins would have pushed a bit more to get the finish if he wasn't out for so long. If he was a bit more consistent, he probably would have gotten the finish immediately. Because Herbert Burns is a fucking big old pile of dog shit. Let's just be honest. He has no grappling. He sucks on the ground. He doesn't look very strong for featherweight. And I don't think he can make bantamweight. It was embarrassing seeing him on the feet. It was embarrassing. I digress. I think Jack Jenkins deserves somebody right outside the rankings. I know he just called out that guy from Canada. I mean, I feel like he could have done this a lot earlier, in my opinion. Yeah, I digress. We're going to talk about Junior Tafa. Bit more interesting. Luana Santos and Casey O'Neill pretty much went as predicted. I wanted Luana Santos to win. It looked like she was rushing into this one, to be honest with you. She looked a bit overtrained. She gassed pretty early after the second round. First round into the second, she looked like she was pretty gassed. I'm not going to lie. I don't think Casey O'Neill is that good. I digress. Okay, Josh Culibao versus Ricardo Ramos. This is one I actually wanted to talk about because I believe the judges got it wrong because it was a split decision. I believe that they robbed Josh Culibao of a win. I don't think that's fair. I gotta respect. The UFC did post the judge scorecards. I'm pretty sure I have them here on Twitter. That's it. No, it's Tai Tuivasa. That's the bad scorecard right there. I'm pretty sure I can find it real quick. I know where it is. Give me 1 second. Here we go. The UFC's Instagram actually posted the scorecard, which I was really impressed with. It looks like they're actually finally doing something about the judging, and they're giving them their dues. I don't think it's fair how often the judges get away with bad scorecards and nothing is done about it, nothing is said about it. I'm pretty sure everybody saw that fight going towards Culibao, including me. That's all I'm going to say. End of story. End of story. we move on. Junior Taffa versus Walter Walker. I'm just going to say it. Yeah. I don't think Walter Walker has the capabilities to do well in the heavyweight division. I think it takes one good clean shot from a guy who's a bit stronger than Junior Taffa and actually knows a little bit of wrestling. He's just like his brother. They're both chinny. I believe when you get too tall, you become chinny. And if you're not an Alexander Volkov type of fighter, when you're that tall, you're going to get chinned. In my opinion. I believe once you're over 6'5", something happens with your body where it's just not the same. And I did want to talk about this one. Anyways, he yelled as soon as Walter Walker got the heel hook. I don't know. Because the refs have different standpoints in the back. You know, they go over the rules and what happens if a guy yells, if a broken arm, blah, blah, blah. If you see it breaking, you're allowed to stop the fight. Would we have liked to see Junior Taffa's knee explode? I'm not saying it was going to, but would we have liked to? I think we should give every guy a chance, but when you're yelling and screaming when a guy has a submission, I believe that's a tap, personally. And people on Twitter were saying, the fuck? People on Twitter were saying, tap, tap, tap should have been said. He didn't say that. That's why this shouldn't have been a stoppage, a submission. I say people who speak a different language that scream when they're in pain. In my opinion, I think Walter Walker got the submission. Give him that. I think he's going to get knocked out by anybody else who can actually throw some good hands. Junior Taffa looks sloppy as fuck, as usual. He looked like he's been training. He lost some weight, that's for sure. But give him the rematch. Or give him his brother. I don't see Walter Walker going far in the division. I just don't. He's chinny. His wrestling is ugly. I digress. On to the next. Carlos Prates versus Li Jingliang. Now this fight I wanted to talk about in detail because holy shit, is Carlos Prates not Anderson fucking Silva reincarnated? What the fuck is going on in the welterweight division? You guys better watch the fuck out. This Muay Thai guy is no joke. I'm pretty sure he has 4 finishes in his last 4 fights. Do you need to see that again? One more time. Ready? Let's have a moment. Rest in peace for my brother, the Leech. Li Jingliang, as usual, ugly on the feet. Didn't expect much from him. He hits hard, but he's very sloppy and he's very slow against a skilled striker like Carlos Prates. We saw the difference. We've seen in his last couple fights, pretty much the same thing. Look at this knee. Absolutely disgusting. Give him somebody at the bottom of the rankings. Give him the Magni test. Somebody right outside, please. Who's there? Let me see. Give him Magni. Give him Luque. Holland. I know all these guys are booked up, but please, something. He deserves it, bro. Or at least keep him active. Because holy shit. And I hate to say this, but he was making the leech look stupid on the feet. Everything was missing. I'm pretty sure the leech landed one strike clean. That was incredible. What a fucking performance. And then for the guy to go out and go smoke cigarettes after. What a fucking guy. This is what the welterweight division needed. It was getting so boring. Especially having Bilal as a fucking champion. This is what we needed. A striker who smokes cigarettes, who gets finishes. Shavkat fights once a year. Let's just be honest. The welterweight division might be one of the worst divisions in the UFC right now. I digress. We move on. Tai Tuivasa versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. First off, I'm going to say Tai fought smart, but he didn't fight his fight, and you could see that. He was very uncomfortable at the kickboxing range. His leg kicks were not working. Jairzinho did a great job of defending those as well as checking them. He was ready for every single one of them. Gotta give him credit where credit's due. The only times Tai had success was when he was rushing in there, being Tai Tuivasa. Bam, bam. Hate to see it. I love Tai. I love the way he fights. I think he leaves it all out there every single time. It just sucks to see, when guys try to change up the way they fight to hopefully get a win and ends up going against them. I gotta give him respect where respect is due. It just looked like he was very uncomfortable at that kickboxing range. I wish he spent more time sparring. I get where he was coming from, not wanting to get knocked out, wanting to change your plan. But it looked like you were landing a lot every time you went in there. You should have expected the check hook. I'm not a fighter. I'm just a fucking fan. Now, what I do want to go over is this fucking scorecard. Who the fuck got Tai Tuivasa for 3 rounds? Howie Booth, who was relieved of his co-main responsibilities. I appreciate, the UFC actually posted this one. I wanted to go over that as well. They're giving the judges some kickback bullshit, finally. Posting them online to actually get some people talking about it. Thank the Lord. Something's finally getting done about it. I can't even fucking talk. It's finally happening. Finally. After all these years, these bad decisions, when there's one immediately where it doesn't go as the fans like, they post the cards. They posted this right after the fight. I love that. That makes me so happy. Finally, the UFC is actually listening and doing something about the scorecards. And that guy was relieved of his responsibilities because these are people's careers. Imagine, Jairzinho's on a 3-fight win streak. Now 4. Imagine. Two-fight win streak. But he's climbing the rankings and he's staying a lot more active than some of the other guys in the division. Gotta give him credit, even though I got the stat wrong. I digress, and we move on. Dan Hooker versus Mateusz Gamrot. I love the way this one turned out. Dan Hooker finally back in the octagon after destroying his arm against Jalen Turner. Finally back in there looking better than ever. Matsus got fucking fraud checked. The wrestling didn't work. Dan Hooker got up immediately. I was so impressed. He's been working on his wrestling and it showed. It fucking showed. He's a lot bigger too. Looks like he put on some size. Same thing as Izzy. Same thing as Kai Kara-France. Looks like that City Kickboxing new routine is working because all guys put on a decent amount of mass and size. Matsus didn't look bad. He did knock down Hooker early. I remember that. I think it was in the first round when Dan Hooker was pressing forward. But I want to talk about why Dan Hooker didn't score any takedowns or knockdowns, when this was clearly a knockdown. 1, 2, 3. That's a knockdown. Why was this not scored as a knockdown?
One of the toughest guys.
That's a knockdown. Anyways. That's our fucking boy. That's our boy. Dan Hooker, finally back, stringing together 4 wins, back in the top 5, being active again. Hopefully no injuries after this one. Please, no injuries because you looked good, brother. You looked good. I would love to see the rematch with Gaethje or Poirier at the top 5. That would be amazing. Matsus, you didn't look bad, bro. But you didn't look great on the feet. You can see the deficit between a good striker once the wrestling is canceled out of the equation and the guy's not intimidated by the wrestling factor because you have no submissions. You look awful on the feet. I digress. This one was pretty fucking depressing. They massacred our fucking boy. I gotta give Kai Kara-France his dues. I was wrong. I thought that little step over right hand to a left hook was not going to work. I thought Steve Erceg was a lot cleaner than that. And I was wrong. The flyweight division makes no fucking sense. You'd figure he would be training for that, as that's the only move Kai Kara-France knows on the feet. But I guess not. Sad to see. They massacred our boy, one of the best up-and-comers in the flyweight division. He'll be back. Hopefully he can bounce back. It wasn't a bad KO, but he did drop him very clean. Right on the chin. One more time. For our boy. Anyways, I move on. Dricus du Plessis versus Adesanya. Absolutely stunning fight. I got to give both guys credit. I don't think it's fair to say that Izzy didn't show up to this one. I don't think it's fair to say that he didn't know what to expect. He had a year off, basically. He put on a lot of size, as we saw, a lot more muscle mass. He was ready for the wrestling. He did well about getting back up, and I think Dricus had a perfect game plan for that. Allow him to get back up, but not without receiving some damage. So every time he took him down, it was punches, punches, punches. I just wanted to go over this one real quick as well. Sloppy, 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 but securing the takedown. As soon as Izzy got some offense going, Dricus would get the takedown, immediately. Even if it was fucking sloppy, it worked. Glad to see both guys make up as well. I know Drickus was extremely respectful after the fight and before the fight. I know he went over and apologized. He was talking about it during the after post-fight presser. Love to see both guys make up and give each other their dues, especially coming from Izzy. We know Izzy is a petty guy. He said it in post interviews before. That's just how he is. And he gets his revenge. Good on him. But it was nice to hear him give Drickus his dues and respect. Honestly, I thought he was going to win by ground and pound. I did not see this submission coming. What a sight. First time being submitted. Look at the lock. And I'm sure we all saw Drickus was a lot stronger than Izzy on the feet and on the ground. I'm going to go over some of these knockouts. I'm going to go over some of these punches that Drickus landed on Izzy during the fight. Right there. You can see how Izzy is a pinpoint striker. I'm not saying he's not. But what I am saying is when Drickus landed, there was a bigger reaction out of Izzy compared to when Izzy landed. Drickus would shell up, of course. He left his body open, and Izzy capitalized on that, and we could see Drickus getting more gassed than he's ever been before, which is hard to believe because this guy looks gassed after the first round in every fight and then ends up getting the finish. Izzy was doing work to the body. He was doing work on the outside, and he was pressing forward. I don't like how everyone's saying Izzy had time off, this and that. There's no excuse. Izzy fought his fight. Regardless if he was moving forward and he's not used to that, there's no excuses. He lost. Drickus was the better fighter that night. No excuses, and Izzy even said that himself. I just think Drickus had a lot more strength on the feet than Izzy was ready for. I think Drickus hits hard as fuck. I think that's why his striking works so well, even though it's so sloppy, and everybody and their mom would expect Izzy to pinpoint strike this guy, but he's durable and he hits hard. It's hard to take out a guy like that when he's so fucking durable. I think Izzy did a great job against the body, and it was working, and he was even winning the third and fourth round. I'll give him credit. Drickus got the takedowns in the first and second. I think he did better on the feet. As soon as Adesanya got some offense, Drickus got the takedown, secured the round. He did this every single time. He did this with Strickland as well. I think if the fight continued to be on the feet, I think Izzy would have ended up winning. He was finding his timing. He was landing on the chin. He was landing to the body. He was starting to string together combinations. As we could see, Drickus was backing up. He was getting a bit more tired. But the takedowns kept coming, and he didn't stop, and he didn't give up on himself. Credit is due. The takedowns worked, and he was a lot stronger than Izzy on the ground. We all saw that. Izzy's a master about getting up, but he does leave his back exposed. There's not a lot of guys in the middleweight division that can do work with the back exposed in the straightest way possible. It's true. Those guys suck at wrestling. They just do. Drickus exposed that. And like I said, Izzy did great on the ground about getting back up, as he always does. We expected that. Drickus did a good job about not just chasing the submission and chasing the finish, but actually getting damage while he was on the ground instead of just letting him stand back up. He allowed that to maybe even play into Izzy's mind that his ground game isn't as good, but he landed shots every single time. And like I said, glad to see the respect after the fight. And that's it for UFC 305. I digress. It was a good scrap. The main card was a lot better than the prelims this time, surprisingly. I feel like a lot of the times there's the last 3 fights on the main card that are good, and the prelims suck, or the prelims are way better. Excuse me. Not this time. A couple things I wanted to go over: the UFC actually posting the judges and some of the fight of the nights. These guys showed out. Respect. Respect, respect. I digress. Please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate it. These were good fights, man. Good to see everybody healthy and back in there, especially from City Kickboxing. Lots of improvements.